Let's go!
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bingetown TV. My name is Kyle. I'm joined by Luke and Kathleen, and we'll be discussing episode 2 of HBO's House of the Dragon, titled The Rogue Prince, which honestly is kind of funny to me because obviously that refers to Prince Daemon. He is the Rogue Prince, but the main theme of the episode is Viserys and what he's going to do about not having a wife and what that then will mean for Rhaenyra's claim, and kind of Daemon's tomfoolery is a little bit of a side plot that kind of lends to our conclusion. But regardless of what I think about that, we're definitely easily 2 for 2 on great episodes. And I'm curious to see A, if you guys agree, and then B, just kind of what your actual thoughts are.
Totally agree. 2 for 2. And also, I'm happy you brought that up because I do not like the name of the episode either. This was so not about Daemon, and Daemon was fantastic in it, but it was way more into I was way more into the peak Rhaenyra scenes, and then it was obviously about fleshing out King Viserys and his decision. So I agree. It was weird that they went with this one. The first episode could have been called The Rogue Prince, and it would have made a little bit more sense because it was just all about his intro and stuff. But just fantastic episode. I'm happy that Kyle was wrong last episode about not getting more Crabfeeder stuff. It seems like it's going to be a super important early season plot, and that could be really fun because I love Essos, and anytime you can kind of connect the two, it's fun for me. And yeah, I can rave about the end scene with Daemon and Rhaenyra all day, and I will when we get there. But pause for now.
Yeah, I loved it. I think Millie Alcock, who plays Rhaenyra, absolutely just slayed this episode top to bottom. Every one of my favorite scenes she's in, whether it's with Daemon, Allison, Viserys, what's her name? Rhaenys, Queen or Princess Rhaenys, yeah. All of those scenes were incredible. She is great, and I'm sad we're gonna lose her at some point because obviously next episode already shows a time jump in the next time on. Allison already has a kid, so we're gonna see time jump. And then do you think eventually she'll be phased out completely, or do you think they'll show like flashbacks and things with her? Because that sucks, because I really, really love her. She's the best.
Yeah, she's incredible, and I agree. It took until episode 2 for me to be like, damn, we're gonna lose a good one. She's a badass, and she's so fun to watch. And I think she'll just be phased out completely, like once we hit like episode 5 or 6.
It was funny. She was giving like mad Danny vibes in this episode. Like, so many parallels every time she was being a badass. I was like, Daenerys, you know? And it was funny because I said that to Alex, and she was like, well, technically Danny is giving mad Rhaenyra vibes because Rhaenyra came first. And I was like, not bad. That's true. But
Okay, so
you're talking
about Millie Alcock, the actress.
Yes.
Okay, I thought you were, because the last name you had said was Rhaenys, and I was like, I don't know where the assumption was that she's just gonna leave the show is, but I think they said episode 6.
Oh,
Depressing.
damn.
I think episode 6 is where the shifts will happen.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
Good
attached. I'm already attached, so I'm
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, that's the risk they ran of casting multiple actors for these roles. Of just, the first ones you meet, you fall in love with them, and then next thing you know, they're different.
And for what it's worth, Kyle, when you said what you said about the actress they cast for older Allison, oh my God, they might as well just be sisters. They look so much alike.
Yeah,
That's
they really
be
do
an
look
easy
a lot alike.
transition.
Yeah, that will be fine. All right, so before we actually get into the contents of the episode, we have our new intro. So curious of what the thoughts are on the intro.
Love the blood. Loved it. I was not expecting it to be the same song for some reason. I thought maybe they'd alter it a little bit because the music they're playing within the show seems to be scored a tiny bit differently. Obviously, we can recognize it, but scored to be a little differently. But I was like, let's fucking go. Let's go. Who cares? I'm so happy to hear that sound again. So
yeah, you couldn't really miss with it. And is it just the Valyrian statue that King Viserys is making? Is that what it was, or did I misread that?
It's supposed to be like a representation of the Targaryen bloodline. Like, I think the first cog that like overfills with blood was like the Doom of Valyria, and like the one of them follows the Targaryen family, and then there's like a thing of Aegon, and then it splits, and then it goes down to Jaehaerys, and it splits in 9 ways. I think Jaehaerys had 9 kids, and then Like it goes into his two older sons, which then goes into Viserys and Rhaenys, and then it goes and splits around. It honestly was very confusing. Someone had to I watched the video and some screenshots on it,
Yeah, I
but
got
there was
none
no
of
way
that.
to pick that up. Yeah, there was no way to pick that up if you're
No.
just like watching Sunday night 9 p.m. just hype as shit for it.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I agree. I wonder if they'll keep it, they'll change it. We'll see what happens. So, first scene, we get actual crabs feeding on people. So I thought this was just an interesting intro, like we had mentioned in episode 1, or like I mentioned, I thought that they had cut some of this stuff. So this was actually really cool. But that's pretty much all I got.
I almost don't even want to talk about it until the end because it's kind of
Yeah.
connecting directly to Corlys and like his future with Daemon. So
Yeah,
off of
it
just
is like
like
the book.
surface level analysis, it was dope. Again, you could just tell it was Essos because of like the lighting, the beaches. Like we're on a different continent. This isn't Westeros right here, and it just like it's just gearing us up for who's going to be, I think, the early season bad guy. I don't see Crabfeeder sticking around too long.
All right, so we can go right into the first small council meeting of this episode. We learned that Ryan Redwine, I really hope I didn't mispronounce his first name, who was the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, has now died. So Harold Westerling, who was Rhaenyra's sworn shield, will be the new Lord Commander. So they will need to fill that spot. And while they're talking about that, Corlys storms in and goes off again about the Triarchy and Crabfeeder.
Take anything from that, Case Bang? We got. Give me some Crabfeeder.
No, I mean, this is what we're going to deal with the whole time, right? Like Lord Corlys is going to become a threat because like the king is not doing anything to help him. And he's, again, the wealthiest, very powerful guy. He's going to, as we saw in the end, team up with Daemon. And there's multiple things that made him do that, but he's pissed at the start. I think what would have obviously like made him happy again was the marrying his daughter of it all. But I think he's going to be a bad guy moving forward, which sucks because I like him a lot, but he's going to be a good bad guy. I really love his actor, his character is good for me, but yeah, nothing much. I was a little confused again because I'm like a little rusty on like the free cities and everything and them going over that, but I was Googling it and trying to learn. So other than that, we're good.
I mean, pretty much the sea between Westeros and Essos is called the Narrow Sea because it is very narrow. It's not difficult to get to all the free cities. Free cities are a lot of like the coastal and like a little bit of like southern. It kind of tips around the bottom of the continent. They all just kind of fight over land in Essos. That's really kind of all you need to know. And they obviously have issues with pirates and things like that. So that's kind of just like a general background.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
King Corlys is only going to be bad depending on your perspective. That's what I want to say about that. Love Daemon.
Interesting.
I like
All right.
that.
So yeah, I guess just an important part of the scene that kind of is a thread that's woven throughout is that Corlys just thinks Viserys is weak. He knows that people are noticing the fact that this is happening on the Stepstones with absolutely no response from the throne. He's upset about that. Rhaenyra kind of agrees a little bit in her own way, and she basically says, like, we have dragon riders, like, why don't we just go fuck them up with some dragons? And Corlys is like, okay. Like, Corlys is down for that plan 100%.
Easy.
But Otto kind of steps in and shoots her down immediately.
I don't know. We saw what happened in Game of Thrones. I think it would have been easy, and they didn't even have the ballistas that the Lannisters had ready for dragons. I think that's a 100% win rate right there.
Yeah, and that's just kind of Viserys and Otto both kind of step over Rhaenyra in this scene, and I think that obviously that comes up later. It's just they're kind of setting this entire conflict and for the entire episode up at this moment.
What I wanted to add was so Rhaenyra is the cupbearer, right? And obviously the other princess gets a shot at her. Rhaenys gets a shot at her later about being the cupbearer. So she is the heir to the throne. They're obviously not really letting her have a voice at all. And she's, by being the cupbearer, she's obviously in the room, at least listening, learning. But I feel like they should give her a bigger role and a chance to speak up. And of course, she's a girl. I'm sure if she was a boy, they would. But it's just so frustrating, and you can see it in her the whole time. And it's just like Daenerys, and I don't know. It's so frustrating to watch her just probably be smart and could have something good to say. Obviously, she's young, so she does really need to sit in and learn. They should let her speak up. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a purposeful choice. It was supposed to be that the last thing we see of her in episode 1 is she's named heir, and then we start episode 2 and she's still pouring wine for people in small council meetings.
Yep.
It's supposed to be, it's supposed to be confusing for her that like, oh, I'm the heir now, but I'm still serving cups, so it makes it feel like it's a temporary thing, like she's kind of just a placeholder at the moment.
Yeah.
So Kathleen, you're pretty good at watching TV.
Hey, thank you.
No problem. You should have a podcast.
I don't have anything to add to that because they're about to kick her out, and then she's gonna pick Sir Kristen Cole's the knight. But I said it earlier, kind of jokingly, but are we allowed to call Corlys a king? Because he's like, what is he, the king of the Driftwood? The Driftwood throne? Is that just like a fake title that we just kind of throw around?
I mean it's kind of like, I'm fairly positive that's what they call the like the actual chair. Like, so the Greyjoys have a throne as well, like I'm pretty sure it's like the Greystone chair or something like that. But I mean, he is Valyrian, so he's gonna like, gas his house up and use that name, and that's why kind of Daemon makes that joke. I mean, you're more than welcome to call him king if you want.
Where does he
Is
sit
it like
again?
King of the North? Similar?
No, I mean he is not a king of anything. The Driftmark is like Driftmark is literally a small island like next to Dragonstone, and that's it.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, you can call him king if you want. I mean, he's definitely like, he's the richest guy in the realm. He's probably, arguably the third most powerful person in the entire
I really like him so far. Like, I just think he is level-headed and rational. And while like he's going to end up on the bad side, it seems like I still think he makes very calculated decisions, and I'm about that.
Wait, Kyle, besides Viserys, who are you putting at number 2?
Oh, I would say it's Viserys and then Otto. You can even argue that Otto might even be number 1, but
man,
we'll get to that.
I hope. Yeah,
a little
okay,
later.
we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. So the next scene plays perfectly off the ending of the small council meeting, and where Rhaenyra now is picking her sworn shield, the new member of the Kingsguard, like Luke said. She picks Sir Kristen Cole. The really thing I want to mention here is just that it's again Otto trying to not make the decision for her, but not seeing her as this person that can make these types of decisions yet. And she immediately shoots him down as like, no, like I'm right. Like you just don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, this felt like a good choice, right? Like it's a sound choice. You don't think she made like some dumb choice. I knew as soon as they said, is there anyone with real battle experience? I knew it was going to be him because they made such a show of him in episode 1. There's a couple things where I felt like I was like, oh, this is going to happen. Like, oh yeah, it's kind of like, I hate to be like, I called a lot in this episode, but I did. Yeah. It was like one of those episodes you could kind of call what was going to happen next. But yeah, Kristen Cole's hot. Yeah,
he is. He's quite comely.
Yes.
And I guess small little fun fact thing, I just like that they mentioned the Iron Islands.
Did they is the House Mallister anything that should be relevant?
I mean, they're in the book. They don't really have a role in the show much, I don't believe, but they're a fairly important family in the Riverlands. They ride with Robb Stark fairly hard.
Okay.
And that was part of the story later on. But I mean, and there's like one of those like second sons is like at the wall with Jon Snow and things like that. But other than that, not really.
Okay.
It's just a cool little lore thing that they're, they care about the actual world. All right. So moving from politics to Viserys and Allison. This scene was actually insane with his scale replica model of old Valyria and kind of the lore tidbits that he drops. So there's 2 things I want to mention before we can kind of talk about how we feel about everything. Is just that like this is fairly new info. I feel like we don't really know much about Valyria in the books or anything like that. And especially, I mean, he mentions that the capital was built into a volcano, and the Dragon Lords would live closest to the actual like volcano rim or whatever he ends up saying, because that's where most of the magic and power comes from. But he mentioned something called an Anogrion, where is like a location where blood mages, quote unquote, worked their craft. And I'm assuming this is all canon info that George has given the okay to. But this is definitely the first time I think that any of this stuff has been mentioned. So that was definitely mind blowing from my perspective.
Did you
And
did you see? This is just right off that the Blood Mage comment. Have you been seeing the rounds about Melisandre's actress wanting to take part in this new
yes,
series? Because it makes sense because she's
yeah,
like
yeah.
hundreds of years old, so like she could be around. But that could be like a seed plant where if they want to pull from it in some way, connecting to the Targaryen line, like that. There you go.
That would be wild if she showed up.
I love
Cool.
her so much, so I want her. I want her to show up.
Yeah,
It's
she
just
was so
fun
good.
on screen. Yeah.
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 But the next part of the scene, I guess the really important part of the scene is Allison and Viserys are, I'm not saying they're getting closer. They have this kind of easygoing relationship with each other. I mean, she listens to him. They're kind of interested in the same things. I mean, like we mentioned on episode 1, they're both readers. He's a big history nerd and history buff, and she's more than willing to lend an ear to him, which is kind of what he needs in his life right now, just some normal conversation with somebody who cares. So they're just really just setting the scene for the end of the episode, so that kind of it makes sense why Viserys would choose Allison.
I have so much to say. I don't know if I should say it now or wait until we get the Lena reveal or
We can get
like.
to it.
Okay, we'll get to it, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we can
I
just
mean,
run
I
through a
guess
lot of this stuff.
yeah. The only thing I have to say is, do you think Allison is doing this on her own volition? She actually has any interest in this at all, or is it really Otto? Do you think maybe Otto pushed her there first, and now she's like coming around to it? What vibe are you guys getting? Because I was getting like I was mixed actually with my own thoughts. I was like, oh, she actually like enjoys this. And I'm like, later when she's like, if you wish to Otto, I'm like, oh, she doesn't want
No,
to.
well said, because I'm in the same boat. I have no read on this girl at all. And it comes back to my initial comment in the last podcast when I brought up when Rhaenyra gets named the heir and she's like looking weird. Like every time she's on camera, I'm like, what is she thinking? I have no fucking idea why she's picking her nails. At the same time, she's
Yeah.
being genuine and nice. And we haven't gotten too many on-screen Otto and Allison interactions to make me think that Otto every single time, every night is like, you're gonna do this to the king, then this and this. Like I feel like there's a little bit of her own ambition there, but it feels weird because I think she likes Rhaenyra as like a true friend, but now it seems like she's gonna go her own way. I have no fucking idea. That's what I'm getting at.
Kai.
Yeah, I think that there is in the behind the scenes at the end of it, the actress kind of says that it's all just because she's nice and knows what Viserys is going through in a way.
Okay.
And is just, trying to be there for the king. And also, I mean, obviously her father is influencing her decision to do this. She would have never gone to the king by herself that first night if he doesn't give that nudge. I mean, he
Yes.
knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, she's also, it's her best friend. And also, I didn't go too hard on this in episode 1, but these two want to kiss each other. Hey, sorry to tell you, these two want to kiss each other.
Don't apologize.
But yeah, no, in reality, no, I would never apologize for that. It's my favorite thing in the world. But like she would never go for this older guy. Like no one wants to do that, especially your bestie / lover, soon to be lover's daddy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
either
think,
way.
yeah, I don't think that Allison is going into these meetings being like, the end game in mind is, yeah, I'm about to clap the king and get married and have royal babies. I don't think
Yeah.
that that's what she's thinking here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think
Mhm.
that, yeah, I mean, at the end, obviously he chooses her. So then she now has her own duty to do, and she can't really say no and things like that. But I don't think that's the motive at the beginning. So
Cool.
we move into now. I really like this scene. This is Rhaenyra and Allison praying together in the Sept.
Mm.
It's just fun seeing like this side of the world. I feel like Game of Thrones got into it a little bit, but just how much in the books they talk about like actually praying and how religious all of the characters really are. It was just fun to watch them light candles in the Sept in front of statues and things like that. But also it's just a great conversation. I mean, it just really shows how close Allison and Rhaenyra are, and also that Allison's becoming this person that Viserys and Rhaenyra both confide into, and so she's just put in this weird spot now at the end of the episode when we find out that she's now going to marry Viserys.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, and I loved seeing that set again. We've been there before, right? Haven't
I do
we?
believe. See, this is where my timeline of things is kind of janky, but I'm gonna say no because in Game of
Oh,
Thrones, it's the Sept of Baelor, and that's after because Baelor the Blessed is a king that built that, but Baelor the Blessed has not lived yet. So
okay. Got
yeah, the
it.
building that Cersei blown up has not been built yet.
Okay. Basically, they're similar because they're in the same fucking
Yeah,
place. But I mean, Dragonstone really did it for me. I was getting like, oh my God, that was so sick. There's so many good episodes and scenes and like comedic scenes at Dragonstone in the original Game of Thrones. Yeah, it's good stuff.
I was
Anyway,
definitely getting some House of the Black. Was it House of Black and White? Is that what it was called? The House of the Faceless Men.
Faceless Man. Hmm.
Isn't it something like that, Kyle? Like
I
how?
do believe so. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that it kind of felt like that too, like the
Hmm.
darker outer rims and then the lit up candle centerpieces and stuff. That's what I was like feeling. But yeah, it's totally just religion's sweet in Game of Thrones because it actually is sort of real with gods and shit. So that stuff, gets me
Yeah.
going.
The
Yeah.
scene I was thinking of specifically was when Cersei and Jamie like bang with the dead Joffrey right there or something. That's
You're
the
right.
scene I was getting.
Yeah.
Yep, that happens. That totally happens.
Yeah.
But that is
Yeah.
not this building. That is not this building. It might be in
Yeah.
a similar location, I believe, but I don't believe it's the same building.
Okay.
Yeah,
The one,
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I didn't have anything else to add. I
Okay.
was
The one comment I just want to say, it's nice to see this side of Rhaenyra. I mean, she's a 15-year-old girl. We obviously love our badass, young girl characters that show that, girls get it done, things like that. But it's just nice to see her say, like, confide in Allison that, like, I wish that he wouldn't just treat me like this little girl. Just seeing that emotional side of her instead of having to put on this face of being the heir and all this kind of stuff. It's just nice to see that
Mhm.
she has a lot of dimensions to her. All right.
Agreed.
So we move into another familiar setting, which is kind of the gardens in King's Landing. This is where when they open this scene, it's just I'm thinking of Lady Olenna. It's just this is like her spot where she was fucking making all her maneuverings while she was in
Mhm.
King's Landing. But this scene is additional maneuverings. This is where Princess Rhaenys and Lord Corlys tell Viserys that he should marry their daughter, Lena, just because it just makes too much sense, essentially.
And it really does. Ages aside, like politically, I don't see any issues with it of just why you wouldn't do this.
Yeah, I don't mean to like jump ahead to it, but the reveal was I was trying to think of if we met her in episode 1 and the only person I can think of was at the tourney when they show her and I was like, God, I hope it's not her. And then when they show her, and I guess what I have to say about this is obviously he ends up choosing Allison. It was nice to see Viserys be like, this isn't cool
Mhm.
because a lot of kings would have just been like, well, if I gotta fuck this little child, I gotta fuck this little child. But what I really want to say is it makes him choosing Allison seem better, even though that seemed fucked up in the first episode. Them doing that actually makes it you go, okay, well, at least it's not the little baby girl,
Yeah.
even though it's kind of
Yeah.
fucked up still.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, I'm
Yeah.
confused. But anyway, that's all I had to say before. I just think it's all crazy. But Viserys at least is really struggling with it, which is he's a good guy. He's actually like a decent man, which is nice and good for a king. But
Yeah,
maybe he's not as smart as a king should be, but
I wasn't as sold as Viserys after the first episode as I feel like maybe you guys were. I still liked him a lot, especially after the Daemon scene that he had in the throne room. But this episode did a lot more for me. Like I feel for this guy. I feel he's actually a good king, and it is totally just my twisted perception of the Targaryens from the show Game of Thrones and like everything people said about them. Because I didn't know much about this prequel book. I never read it or anything, but like the little line when he comes in and says to the queen that ever was, like that you're my favorite cousin, that just felt weird to me because I just picture in my head all of the Targaryens of the past, either they're fucking each other or going to war with each other. So it's like nice that there was like a true cousin, non-incest relationship there because it just in my head I just didn't think there was that much of it in the Targaryen lineage, but it's cool. Like it's kind of like reshaping how I feel about all these older Targaryens, especially Viserys, because I said it on the last podcast that I didn't anticipate him being like this at all. And he is genuinely listening to the advice of his advisor Corlys here, because he says like, what's your game plan? Like, tell me, talk me through what you actually want to do. He's not just set in his ways, and he's willing to adapt. So this was like a big scene for me, and like kind of reshaping my idea of what the Targaryens are. And they're not just what's the line? What's the saying? You flip a coin anytime a Targaryen's born, if they're going to be crazy or not. Like that seems a little bit exaggerated almost when you're seeing a whole different generation of Targaryens in this show. And I mean, Daemon, I guess you can say he's crazy, but the rest aren't yet.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens when we get introduced to to a new stable of Targaryens. Because I mean, really only have a handful in this show. I mean, there's really 3 right now.
You tell me, Baby Monk's crazy.
So we'll see what happens when some new blonde-haired madmen get introduced to the show. I guess just very quickly, just to describe why Corlys thinks this is a great match. I mean, we've talked about it in episode 1 as well, and they talk about it multiple times in this episode. But basically, like the Targaryens and the Valyrians have been bros for a long, long, long time. They've intermarried for generations. The Targaryens rule the air, the Valyrians rule the sea. Corlys is the most powerful man that's not, the king or the hand of the king. In reality, like it's just this almost makes way too much sense.
Mhm.
And they did, like Kathleen said, they set it up perfectly of what you might be thinking almost after the scene, like, okay, like, yeah, they made a lot of great points. Like this is politically savvy, this makes sense. And then you see Lena and you're like, oh my gosh, this does not make any sense. Like, no, this is so wrong. So shout out, I guess, to them in a weird, twisted way that they did it that way.
Shout out to them.
Because I mean, unfortunately, I mean, they're trying to stay as close as they can to the canon.
Quick question for you then, Kyle. Because so say hypothetically you're playing Crusader Kings 3 and you're running a dynasty for the Targaryens. Are you marrying yourself off to Lena?
I guess the disclaimer here is going to be that the way that I play Crusader Kings in no way represents my morality that I go about actual daily life with. But yeah, I would do it. That disclaimer's there. I'd actually, when I mentioning canon, speaking of canon, in the books, like Viserys and Emma got married when she was 11. She had Ranier when she was 15. She had already had 2, I think, stillbirths. So she started trying to have kids at 13 in the books.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's crazy, but not crazy, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's so shocking and devastating. I mean, we might as well just talk about this scene. We can go back to the other ones. When they show
that's perfect.
Lena, it's they show it from afar. So she's obviously this tiny, small girl. And then when she looks up, like I watched Alex watch it on my second watch, she watched with me, and I was like watching her watch it, and she was like, oh, no, not her. I was like, I know. They do such a good job. She has such a baby voice. It really is such a stark, gross contrast between the two. And he's like, did your dad tell you to say that? When she goes through that little speech that obviously she rehearsed 50 times, nails it, by the way. Good job, little girl. And then her mom's like, she said she doesn't have to bed you until 14. I'm like, I don't even buy that she's 12. She looks 10.
Crazy uncomfortable when she recites the practice lines. It's obviously already uncomfortable, and you can tell that Viserys is uncomfortable, but she drops that line, and we've even watched in a group, and I think it might have been one of our friends, it's probably Alki, was like, what the fuck? Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, well, so I mean, it's one thing to read it on the page. It's another thing to actually see it act out with a child and like a grown man. And it's just does not make you feel good.
I will say that her and her dad have the best hair of all the Targaryens, or of all of the Valyrian blood, I should say. Because her hair was the shit. Lena's.
Yeah.
And while we're here, Rhaenys's hair is so out of control. What's she hiding back there? What is she? It's to hear. It's like, it's nuts.
It's always like that, though. It's always on point like that.
Yeah. She spent way too much time in the hair chair. Yeah, for real.
Yeah, that feels exhausting. And I guess before we move away from Lena and Viserys, obviously the overwhelming theme of the conversation is very uncomfortable, but it's important to note that Lena just really wants to talk about dragons. when it's like free flowing conversation, she wants to talk about dragons, and then she has to drop her pre-practice line. But they do mention both Balerion. They actually confirm what I had mentioned in the first episode, that Viserys was the last person to ride the Black Dread, aka the dragon that Aegon the Conqueror rode when he took over Westeros and the 6 kingdoms that he ended up taking over. And then they mentioned that Vhagar, his sister wife's dragon, is still alive, but they just don't know where.
They said it was. They say they think he's somewhere on the coast of the Narrow Sea. One of the
Yeah, she mentioned Spicetown. Spicetown is a town. It's like a port city on the island of Driftmark that the Valerians kind of rule. So that's just, I guess, a little bit more world building right there. Before I guess we move on, we can just very quickly backtrack just to Otto and Viserys having the conversation. So Viserys tells Otto and Grand Maester Malos that Corlys has come to him with this kind of betrothal idea. Otto obviously immediately dismisses it out of hand because he has larger designs. But I'm just curious of what you guys think of Maester Malos is on the other side of it, kind of being like, oh, it's a great match. Like unite the houses. It shows strength for the realm. But I was also reading a lot of people thinking that Otto and Melos were just kind of playing a 2-man game on Viserys, where like Melos is kind of in Otto's pocket, like trying to play that side, but in reality it's just kind of Otto's creature.
I didn't take it like that.
Me neither. I didn't read that. I got it as like Otto was really trying to play the like, I don't envy you game. Obviously he's so selfish, he wants Allison to be that. That's all I was getting, that he was just like, sucks, brother. Yeah. I didn't. That's interesting. I would like to rewatch that scene with that in mind.
He doesn't push hard like on. He doesn't. I guess he just doesn't sign off on the idea of him marrying Corlys's daughter. But he doesn't like push Allison or anything in replacement, which is, smart.
It's because he's trying to make it seem like Viserys' idea.
Yeah,
he really is.
That's true.
And I will say, obviously, there were scenes that we missed when he finally picks Allison when they're at the table, because Otto knew what was coming. Allison was in the room. We obviously missed scenes of him telling Allison that's going to happen, or at least telling Otto, who told Allison, being like, since when is she there in that room?
Yeah.
As soon as she was in the room, I was like, I'm scared.
Yeah. The biggest piece of evidence for that stuff with Melos is that in episode 1 at the tourney, he comes, like, the news of Emma being like in very difficult labor gets told to Otto first, and then Otto then tells the king.
Okay.
When you would think maybe you would just tell the king.
Yeah.
But that could be easily people reading way too far into things.
Not leaving this scene without mentioning the absolute disgusting nature of those fucking maggots.
Yeah,
get the hell out of here.
For real.
But it is cool that I'm pretty sure that's just directly linked to his cut that we saw him get in the Daemon scene, right from the throne, which was on that finger when he cuts himself. So there's something weird going on with, maybe it's just completely symbolism about what you said before, Kyle, where the throne cuts bad kings or something like that, and it's just not healing, because that's apparently what's happening. His back cut wasn't healing. His finger cut, we're now 6 months in advance, and it's festering, and they're about to have to cut it off. So I don't know if there's something else going on there, but it's weird that the throne is basically just slowly killing him, and he's not healing correctly.
I mean, it could just be whatever the Iron Throne is made out of, iron, obviously, but like he's getting like poisoned by the cuts. I don't know. Is it like a metaphorical, wacky Game of Thrones thing, or is it genuinely like this thing, when it cuts you, we don't have the medicine to fix it. It's going to get infected. It's going to.
Someone's like sprinkling like bacteria on it at night, and so he's just cutting himself a little bit.
Yeah.
Fucking Daemon.
All right. I mean, perfectly outlined there, Kathleen. Those seem to be the only two possibilities. I mean, it's gonna get addressed. It'll come up. It'll happen.
I can never tell when Kyle knows something because he's read the book, or if he, or if he's just complimenting me to compliment me.
That's a good thing, though. I should be keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm trying not to ruin things. All right, so the next real scene we'll talk about is going to be Rhaenys and Rhaenyra having their little bit of a verbal sparring match. This was a great fucking scene.
Excellent.
I will be honest, I was a little shocked that Rain. So Rainy, a lot of people like the character of Rhaenys from the books, and it seems like she's kind of come off as a big hardo in these first 2 episodes and not incredibly likable. So I'm just kind of curious for the long run of her character, of what other kind of scenes we're going to get from her. But essentially, this is just Rhaenys trying to be like one woman to another. Like, I know you have these dreams that now you're the heir and you're getting all these ideas in your head, but like, I've been there. You're lying to yourself. Like, I know what the truth is. They're never going to let you sit on that chair.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Rhaenyra, with that we know, strong-willed, stubborn. She wants to be, she has all these dreams of being a hero and fighting, and and she even says like, when I'm the queen, I'll change things. So she's obviously not going to take that laying down.
I'll start just because I think you're gonna have more to say than me. I didn't take a lot of notes on this scene. Yeah, I don't really like. I fall into that camp. Like, I don't really. What's Rhaenys?
Rhaenys.
Rhaenys, or
Rhaenys.
just the queen who never was. If
I
you wanted
like
to say
that
all those
so
names.
much better. The queen that never was.
Yeah,
That's so much easier to remember. The queen that never was. But yeah, like, I see she made some good points. Then Rhaenyra made some better points where she's like, they rejected you, not me. They kneeled and said that I'm the heir, which is cool. But she's also very young and naive, and that's kind of what the whole beginning of this episode was about. Her, kind of needing this experience to go through the steps to actually get some throne knowledge. But yeah, I don't have much to say. It was a great scene, and I totally am still team Rhaenyra, like I'm sure everybody is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's interesting because Rhaenys is coming from a place of, it's like precedent, right? It happened to her. She lived it. It's like she's trying to tell her, I guess, little cousin or niece or whatever you would call her, Rhaenyra, like, girl, don't get your hopes up at all. But also coming from a place of, they were just watching Viserys walk away with Lena. So obviously Rhaenys has like other interests other than Rhaenyra. She's like, fuck Rhaenyra. If my daughter's gonna get absolutely pimped out, which she says in this scene, she's like, of course it bothers me. Because she's like, it bothers you, doesn't it? To Rhaenyra. Then Rhaenyra flips it right back on her, being like, that's your fucking daughter. Like, what is up? So it's definitely interesting. I feel like Rhaenys would have more helpful things to say and be nicer if she didn't have some other stake in it, with becoming like, okay, maybe I didn't become the queen, but my daughter's about to marry Viserys. So I think it's definitely an interesting dynamic. I think Rhaenys would be nicer to her if they didn't have that. But I personally really like this. I was like, go toe to toe with each other. I love like two strong women, like absolutely sassing the fuck out of each other. When Rhaenyra dropped the queen that never was, I was like, dab. Like, fuck yes. So sick.
The behind the scenes things after we're gassing up these two characters as just very, very strong, powerful female presence in the Game of Thrones. So it was cool that they like these characters a lot. But quick question: does Rhaenys live on the island, I guess, too, with Corlys? Like, do they live there? They don't live, or do they live in the Red Keep because they're in the small count? Well, he's in the small council.
I would say they live in the Red Keep.
So why would you even? I don't get it. How would he even? I guess is it close enough where you could take a boat and be the Driftwood with like in an hour?
An hour? I mean, okay. I'm not a seafarer, but and I can't. Yeah, I don't know anything about clicks or knots, but I don't know. I mean, it would be less than a day. I feel like it's like a day voyage.
So you can go back and forth.
You could just spend
easily.
a weekend. Yeah, you could just pop back for a weekend, at Driftmark, and then come back for work, and then maybe you take a week off and you're in Driftmark.
Okay.
That's kind of the vibe that I get.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that question threw me off a little bit there, fucker.
Gotta keep the one thing on your toes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But the one thing I will say is that, speaking of the behind the scenes, they did say, this is Miguel and Ryan Condal, the two kind of the showrunners, said that this scene was important to them. It's just, again, exploring that theme of the patriarchy and kind of the way that the patriarchy conditions the women, especially powerful women, that they're of kind of lesser value than the men that are in seemingly similar positions to them, like prince versus princess. this is similar again to what Queen Emma, the first conversation that Rhaenyra has with Queen Emma in episode 1, of her saying that like our wombs are royal, like this is kind of our battlefield, this is how we get things done. And Rhaenys essentially is, I mean, this is not the term I really want to use, but like she's kind of just beaten down in that same way of like she's just accepted it now. Like she probably had the same thoughts Rhaenyra had when she was younger of like, I'll change things, like I'm a princess, I might be queen, and then things happen to her and now she's on the completely other end of the spectrum of you'll never change it, the men will always have their way, things like that. It's tough now because it's like, okay, that's how it's always going to be, but obviously the things will happen where that idea will continually get challenged. So we'll be on the lookout for that.
Luckily, by the time Dany's born, they're like, yes, be the queen. That's amazing.
Yeah. I guess it's a little bit of a spoiler knowing that about 172 years later, nothing
still
has
sucks.
changed. Yeah, absolutely nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Okay. The next technical scene is just more in Viserys and Allison, slightly more flirtatious in this way. Allison gives him the gift. He really likes that she gave him that gift. And I think this is where his wheels really start turning, because this is after he's had the icky kind of conversation with Lena, and maybe he's thinking about his options, and Allison now is in front of him. So that's just, they're really making a point of showing as many scenes as possible, showing that the relationship is not just like completely random out of nowhere. Much better scene is the scene right after, which is an emergency meeting that Otto calls for the small council, where we learn that Daemon, the rogue prince, has conveniently popped into the dragon pit, stolen an egg, and left a little cheeky note, and then just flown right back to Dragonstone in the middle of the night.
So this scene almost justifies the name of the episode.
Yeah,
that's not even the later Daemon stuff like that. Him off screening the dragon egg, just so insane. And then they say under the eyes of 50 dragon keepers, he just kind of like snuck in there, took it real quick, and it was the big dragons, or it was supposed to be the egg that was meant for the heir for a day.
Yeah,
correct.
Balon,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that when Rhaenyra is like in High Valyrian, like which fucking egg did he take? And of course, when they are talking in that language again with Daemon, so sick. It just adds such a fucking like cool little piece. Although, does Mysaria know that language, or was she just like kind of? We can get there. I'm really jumping the gun, but Mysaria like understood that and was like bounced.
I got that too, but I think she's from Essos based on her accent, right? Like, so there's a higher chance that she would.
Yes. Yeah, so she is canonically, she is from a city called Lys. People that are Lys are like very long distantly related to like Targaryens and Valyrians, and as we know, as we've seen Daenerys, well, true, fair enough. We've seen Daenerys speak Valyrian. She never actually interacted with anyone that actually knew it besides her brother, but she did learn it from people who spoke Valyrian in cities like Lys. So that's my take on that. But I mean, in a similar vein, I love that the Dragon Keepers, like they can just talk to the Dragon Keepers in Valyrian and no one else can know what they're talking about. So I just think that's a cool little wrinkle. And the one thing I want to mention as well, because I love calling out Otto fucking Hightower, is that Otto Hightower tells the king that he cannot allow the king to go to Dragonstone. And Viserys is kind of like, okay, he accepts it. Which is just, again, Otto just, because, I mean, he'll tell Corlys when he's overstepping, but Otto can't seem to overstep.
But yeah, I mean, right? You don't listen to the king.
I feel like this actually worked. Like, I feel like it was right that Viserys shouldn't have gone, right? I mean, it's to Dragonstone, and it's to face Daemon, and it's his brother. It shouldn't have been that big of a threat, but obviously Daemon's just going absolutely rogue. But what we didn't say,
you did it on purpose.
The rogue prince. The cheeky note was saying that he's marrying Mysaria, who I will never forget her name. Rhaenys. Sorry, I have to remind myself every 2 minutes. Mysaria. Would never forget.
I write my notes as Miss Arya now. I don't even care how you spell it. And it reminds me of, shout out to Severance, Miss Casey. I'm just like, Miss Arya, Miss Casey. But anyway.
But I didn't realize, and maybe I forgot, that babies in their cradle or whatever like sleep with the egg, and then when it hatches, that's why they have an emotional connection to it. Because in the cheeky little note, he says, I'm expecting a child, I'm marrying her, she's going to be my second wife, blah, 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 which obviously he's lying about the child. But that actually made me like so kind of sad for Daemon. He was like, well, I want him to have it eventually. Like,
that is exactly how he said it. He was like, well, maybe one day.
yeah. He's
Yeah.
like, not now, but maybe.
Don't feel
Come on.
bad yet, because she's not pregnant, right? It was a lie. It was just a straight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He just
Yeah.
lied and was like, I'm taking this egg. When he throws that egg, we'll get to it. I was like,
Yeah, well,
"Ah."
we're about to get to it right now, so fuck
Okay,
it. Let's
let's
head to
do it.
Dragonstone.
Yeah.
A quick scene, Allison and Otto. Otto's calling his daughter hot and shit. It's weird. So we'll move to Dragonstone, where Otto is taking his little squad of people to confront Daemon. And like Kathleen said at the beginning of this episode, it was fucking awesome to see Dragonstone again. We get the little bridge causeway thing where Rhaegal flew above Jon Snow and Davos when they fucking dive on the ground, and Tyrion's like, like you get used to it, that little cheeky line. So obviously they're shooting on the same location. It was oddly nostalgic to be here, or like
For
it's
season
the shows
7
in the
stuff.
past. Yeah, but the shows in the
Future
past.
nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess this scene is basically 2 parts. Part 1 is Daemon versus Otto, and then part 2 is Rhaenyra shows up, pushes Otto aside, and is like, I'll handle this. So I guess before we can dive into Rhaenyra, I just am curious of any comments on Daemon and Otto's verbal sparring match.
I
Go ahead.
feel like Otto can talk the talk. He definitely was like dunking on him fully, but you also can't fully dunk on someone like Daemon because he'll literally just go, so what to you? Like he's not a man of like reason or anything. He's like, I don't care. I'm gonna just unsheath my sword and here comes my dragon. So now what? Like, but Otto was actually dunking on him, and I really actually was like, okay, I knew it wasn't gonna work, but it takes something more to talk to someone and convince someone like Daemon, just because he's a wild man, he's a rogue prince. So he's dead. Otto's definitely a words guy. But
I mean, he literally whips his dragon out at the slight threat of like any sort of conflict, and then Otto's like, okay, hold on. Let's
Yeah, sheath the
give me a
fucking
second."
steel, guys. Settle down back there. He doesn't know you, but he fucking hates me. So let's all settle down. That's
You
literally
guys
exactly
might
what
be
happened.
okay. But
Yeah, that's like exactly what happens.
this is the best front to back part 1 and part 2 best scene of the show so far, and it's gonna take something good to beat this, because this was just everything I've been waiting for. We're back into the Game of Thrones vibes, and we're already getting like season 4 level of badassery from people, because they didn't have to do all the basic world building and stuff. So it feels much better. And we're not like hinting at like the prophecy, the big world picture stuff. So it feels like this episode felt so much more like Game of Thrones, and this scene solidified it. But yeah, Daemon, come on. Anytime he's on the screen, he's the best. And yeah, I'm starting to enjoy Hightower. Not at the level of Littlefinger yet. I doubt he'll get to that level, because Littlefinger's a fucking all-timer. But I do like he's a very nuanced character who's not just going to be put into a simple box, I think. So it's going to be fun to I like seeing how anytime Daemon gets a screen time, it's important to see who he's playing off against, because that just adds so much information to like how the Targaryens are going to like interact with other people.
He also played off well with, speaking of Daemon, with Kristen Cole. I mean, Kristen Cole was willing to trade some words as well. I mean, he chirps right back at him. Is like, oh, like perhaps you recall when I knocked you off your horse. And I love what Daemon just goes, ha, very good. That was such a great response, where it's like Kristen Cole totally dunked on him, but then at the end of it, it's kind of like Daemon didn't really lose, did he? Because like he just, haha, very good. It was just like such a funny last word that he just kind of jabbed in there.
The boy's got a dragon, bro.
Motherfucker.
Nothing matters because he has a dragon.
Yeah. I mean, great fucking shot of Caraxes. Caraxes just letting out that roar, screech, I guess, whatever you want to call what dragons do. And everyone is just, I mean, they literally show just Otto's face, and he is just shook. He's like, oh shit, okay.
Here's a question I have. Would Rhaenyra's dragon and Daemon's dragon have any sort of kinship? Are they buddies? Are they pals? Are they family? Because Daemon's
gonna say
dragon
no.
is fucking cool. The red, the
Yeah.
long neck. They're all scary. This dragon is terrifying. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just wondering that because when Rhaenyra comes like out of the clouds, I'm like, is this something that Daemon's dragon will be pissed at, or is this like, oh, that's my brother?
So that's a
Hey.
great question because like I think what I'm getting at or what I'm getting from the show, especially through Game of Thrones, is that I think it's all through the rider they have connection with. Like I think if Dany's 3 dragon eggs were split up among even her brother, like if they were split up between 3 people, I don't think they would have been as good with each other. It was just because their connection was Daenerys. And I think that's probably what it is.
I would say the connection is, I would say it's built in a way through, so like the dragons live in the dragon pit. Like they all live in that pit together. So like in a way they're kind of roommates, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
like they're not like bonded together in any way. Like Luke said, they're more bonded with their rider.
Yeah.
So I don't
They
think that
were
Cyrax. I don't think. Well, they are, yeah. I don't think that Cyrax and Caraxes have like any type of relationship. That,
Or
like,
beef though on the other side, right? Like,
oh yeah, exactly, and it definitely swings the other way of there's no real beef there.
they wouldn't fight each other unless like pushed to it, I guess, by the
Sure.
riders.
Okay.
Yeah,
I buy that.
yeah. I mean, unless someone was shitting in someone's bed in the dragon pit, and next thing you know we got beef, and then all hell breaks loose. I'm not sure the inner workings of the roommate relationship. Who's a good roommate? Who's a bad roommate inside the dragon pit?
Sure.
But nonetheless, Carax's roommate Cyrax shows up, and with Rhaenyra on his or her back rather. And this scene was fucking awesome with the fog splitting, and then she comes over and flies over just like Rhaegal did with Jon Snow and Davos in season 7.
Gas
And
me
Rhaenyra
up.
Rhaenyra fucking lands, and the entire scene changes. She shows up, she walks through them all. Otto's like, "Yeah, get the princess so out of here, Kristen Cole," and she literally ignores that comment and just says like, "Be careful, like Cyrax is like very sensitive to my well-being," and just walks right past and right at the Daemon,
Yeah.
and then obviously whips out the Valyrian. So good.
This scene, oh god, it was so fucking good. But my favorite thing about this whole Dragonstone, scenes is when Rhaenyra walks up to Daemon. I did not feel even an ounce of tension between the two, which is so fucking incredible because 6 months have gone by. There's time for Daemon to like build up some hatred about like this whole heir thing, and it still felt like there was no chance in hell he was going to actually hurt her. And I love that because I said it a lot in the first episode. I'm gonna keep saying it. Like I'm begging Daemon not to be pure evil and be more complicated and fun than that. And this is great because it seems like there is still that kinship there. And it's not incest kinship. It's just like, just friendly. Like this is, and I was just so happy that there wasn't any tension.
Yeah, the relationship in the scene with Viserys and Daemon last episode, obviously there was such high tension, but in from Daemon's point of view, it was like resentment, and Viserys was fucking pissed. This really felt like two siblings being like, "What the fuck? Just give me the goddamn thing back. Just give it to me." And the other guy's like, "Fine." Like it's but you're not being
Yes.
You're not really being mean to each other. You're just being like, "What is up? What's going?" Just like plainly, no bullshit conversation. And that's the only thing that's gonna get through Daemon. But it's also because Daemon has a soft spot for Rhaenyra. Like he just has it.
She's like, "Uncle, this is my castle. Like, what the fuck you doing?" He's like, "I'll give it to you when you're 18."
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
It was such a good scene.
Yeah,
it was such a good scene.
It just humanizes Daemon so much. That's the important part about it.
Yeah, and it's in a way, it kind of solidifies almost everything Otto said, where he basically is saying like, "You're just throwing a fucking temper tantrum, bro.
Yes.
Like, give us the egg, settle the fuck down." And then it takes Rhaenyra walking up, and Damon's like, "Okay, it might be a fucking temper tantrum," and then he just throws the egg.
Okay, so let's talk about that because this is the biggest. I was like debating with Alki and Dave, and we couldn't really come up with an answer. Would in that moment, if Rhaenyra didn't show up, was Daemon down to kill Hightower?
My take would be
like
yes.
only if pushed. Like
I
if
would
he
say only
actually
if
like stepped
pushed.
forward and stuff. Like that's how I see it, right?
Yeah, but I don't. My interpretation of Daemon's character, it's a tough question between how much it would hurt Viserys, and he actually doesn't want to do that,
Mm-hmm.
but he hates Otto Hightower
Yeah, that's true.
so much that I think that he would definitely take that step and kill him.
Do you think he would have also killed all of the other knights?
Yeah, I mean that would have been insane. I mean, he would have killed the Hand of the King, the Kristen Cole who just got knighted in the, and the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard was there. Howard Westerling is the new Lord Commander, so that would have been insane if he did that. But Daemon's fairly insane, so it's hard. He's such a hard character to, I think, predict in that
Yes.
way, and he's built like that, which makes him fucking awesome. Where it's like I feel like you could have an argument passionately on either side of it, and there's enough reasoning for either that you almost really couldn't convince the other that they were wrong, but you're never going to prove that you're right either.
Yeah.
I'm really excited because Daemon and Hightower are being set up as two Daemon's getting set up as more of a villain, but Hightower's getting up someone you could kind of like love to hate, and they're both characters you love to hate, and then watching those two go against each other is going to be fucking great, just like this was. Because normally I wouldn't really be rooting for Daemon only because he's going against like our girl and stuff. But if it was like Daemon versus Hightower, which it was, I was like, this could go either way. And I'm just let's go.
It's a win-win for the good guys, no matter what.
Yeah,
so that's what I
exactly.
wanted to bring up about the Crabfeeder, because it doesn't seem like it's going to involve Viserys or Rhaenyra. It's going to be Daemon and Corlys versus the Crabfeeder. So that also seems like the same way. Like it's a win-win. They're like no one's going to be hurting Rhaenyra, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, basically,
the same idea?
They're doing just a lot of good shit in these episodes. That just sees like scene to scene. You're not like that. Your alliances are shifting, but like the context of each scene matters so much to like how you're viewing the characters, and it's fucking awesome. It's going to be like that for literally every season, every episode.
Because as of where we stand right now, it does not feel like I know we probably are building up to a huge Targaryen versus Targaryen thing, but as this moment through episode 2, it doesn't seem like Daemon's gearing up to go to war with Viserys or Rhaenyra, and that's just the longer we can delay that, the happier we're gonna be. I think so. That's what this scene does, right? Like it kind of puts another delay in the inevitable breakout of a war between them, and it's just crazy because even when Daemon finally caves, right, Rhaenyra says, "I'm right here. Kill me if all you care about is the heir thing. Slit my throat right now. Be done with this shit." And he just kind of looks at her, chucks the egg at her, turns around, and she smiles right there because she knows she's playing the game right now. She's in the great game now, and she's fucking killing it.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, she's just on this mission to prove herself, and she literally just did it right there.
Yep. And I like the touch of putting the egg into the pot after.
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool. And then they fucking made those guys lug that thing all the way up there
while it was hot.
Not only that, but when Rhaenyra gets back on the dragon and is just like, walk home, bitches. Like, get on your boat.
Pretty much.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you.
Like, they probably could have strapped that thing onto Cyrex in some way. Like, Cyrex is a dragon. She probably could have kept it warm enough for the flight back to King's Landing.
Yeah, they just spent the hardest weeks of travel, and she was in and out in an hour.
Oh, that's great.
Viserys didn't even realize she was gone. That's how quick she was in and out.
Literally, yeah. So honestly, we can skip over the Daemon and Mysaria scene. Essentially, she's just fucking pissed that he didn't tell her anything that he was doing. And then he just sent a letter to the king that was like, yo, we're going to get married. She's pregnant, and like all this shit. And she was like, you can do this dumb shit, but I can't because I'm a nobody and they'll just kill me.
Yeah.
So
only thing I'll say is I hated her accent.
Oh my God, yes. That's actually what I had written down as well. Just bad. She seems like a good actress, I guess, in a way. People love her in devs and shit. Shout out to Paul Facenda. But it's so bad. It's so distracting.
It's probably by design. Like, that's what she was told to talk like.
Yeah, it's just.
I didn't think that in
design.
the first episode, though. I guess she didn't have enough lines in the first episode because she was like, I could get a silver hair or someone. And I wasn't really thinking, wow, that I agree, though. But I mean, good for her being like, you know, that giving birth in this day and age sucks ass. I may die. It's like flip a coin, toss a coin. I'm dead.
Yeah.
So and good for her because fuck that.
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
she knows what she wants. And she knows fucking how to get it. So, all right. So we'll move. I just very quickly mention Viserys and Lord Strong talking. Lord Strong is the master of laws. Viserys is he's just popping around the Red Keep, being like, "So what do you think about this Lena chick?"
Yeah.
And Lord Strong is like pretty much saying that he should marry her. That's his advice. He doesn't care that she's young at all. He's all about the bloodline and the unity and the fact that Corlys Velaryon makes an amazing ally and a terrible enemy.
These are the scenes that honestly, like, this is what kept it from being. It just felt repetitive. It kept it from being like almost like a 9 out of 10. Maybe maybe it was around there, but it just felt like we're rehashing the same exact conversation over and over. So I agree. It doesn't really add anything.
I
The
just
only thing
like
I
it.
took away was the Corlys might retaliate by holding back his ships, which we kind of assumed probably anyway.
I just like how human it makes Viserys seem. I feel
Yeah.
like the fact that he's just like kind of like nervous and he's asking all these people what they think, and it just really expands his character
Yeah.
and shows just like kind of what he's all about. And I really like his actor as well. So I'm a sucker for, and especially Game of Thrones
Agreed.
is so good at these character interactions that, I mean, for me, all the scenes are great.
I agree. This one was relatable. I agree with Luke where it seemed repetitive, but it is relatable. Whereas if I had an issue, I would call every single one of my friends to get their opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping
Actually,
that this is like his most character centric episode because we got a lot, and now it's time for other fun
Yeah.
people.
Well, now the decision has been made. I mean, a big part of Viserys' character is that he seems soft. Some people think he's a weak king. He doesn't actually take action. This whole episode is him kind of pussyfooting around making a decision.
Yeah.
He makes the decision. So hopefully, yeah, we can move on now.
Mhm.
One quote I will just like to mention, Lord Strong comes out with some heat and saying that you sit upon the highest seat in the realm, your grace. Proud men don't like having to look up. And obviously, Corlys Velaryon has demonstrated that sufficiently in these first 2 episodes, and so has Daemon.
Yeah.
All right, so Viserys again, getting a little nervous. He's trying to ask now for someone else's help. So if it comes to Rhaenyra, this is her. This is her fresh off of her interaction with Daemon. She's got the eggs. She's feeling like she's fucking killing it. She's gassing herself up, I bet, as she's going to his chambers, and he's fucking pissed because, I mean, in reality, she is literally the only heir in Viserys' eyes at this point. So she can't just be hopping on Dragonback and riding to some potentially heated confrontation.
I still liked it. I mean, another side thing was that Allison talked to Viserys about how to talk to her. And then Allison talked to Rhaenyra about how to talk to her dad. And then now we skipped like the dinner scene prior where he kind of shuts her down. And now we're here. And he does finally open up and is like, I'm fucking sad about your mom. And she's like, thank you for saying it.
Yeah, she's like, so am I. Yeah,
exactly. So it was nice in that sense. And I love a dad and daughter relationship that's like, especially back in these days where I'm sure it's like there aren't many. Like, so I like the scene a lot, but I'm pumped to get to the end scene.
That's probably like the normal takeaway from most people is just what you just said right there. But my takeaway from this was just that she was so badass that whole Dragonstone thing just got skipped over because of how fucking awesome she was there. He doesn't even scold her with one sentence because, yeah, I guess no bloodshed happened. We're good.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, Ray, killing it.
He was so low-key proud. He was so low-key proud of her. He was like, damn, like that was such a your mom move.
It was great.
That was good. All right. So, oh gosh, okay. So now we have the final small council meeting of the episode. We've referenced it a million times. Everyone knows what happens. Viserys obviously announces that he's going to marry Lady Allison Hightower, and he spurns Corlys Velaryon by not choosing his daughter Lena. The one comment I will make, just in general about the scene, is that I love the way that they shot it, of Viserys like looking out the window. You can tell again that he's still nervous at this point. He's about to make this big announcement, and the way that they did like the noise is so muted of everyone coming in the room, where it's like Viserys is so like nervous and focused, like so internally on his own thoughts that he's almost not even noticing that everyone's coming in and taking their seats and everything. I just thought that was really, really, really well done.
Yeah, this was a good one. This was like, as soon as they showed her, you're like, let's fucking go. I didn't know what Ranier was going to do. And when Ranier gives him the little, like, go ahead, it's okay. And then he flips the script and says, Allison, you're just like, oh my God, flop town. Like, how did you not mention it to her before you announce it to everybody in the room?
Yeah, because we didn't really mention it, but she is in the last scene where she's like, it's okay. Like, I get it. Like, you're the king. You're like, mom won't understand as well. Like, you have to remarry. Like, it's okay. And then in Viserys' head, he's like, all right, like, she's cool with it. Like, there's no worries anymore. Like, I'm going to make the announcement, not realizing that he never told her who it's going to be. So he's just like, oh, no matter what happens, she'll be chill with it. And obviously, this is like the one scenario possible that she would not be chill with it.
And her acting, the facial acting was amazing. Like, you could just see like she was about to her face was like starting to quiver a little bit while she's looking at Allison, and then it's like she's also pissed at the same time. She took it with the acting in the scene, so it was like amazing.
If they are in love with each other, if they're just best friends, it's already a betrayal, right? It's the worst. That's your best friend, whatever. If they are in love with each other and the small chance or whatever it is, that is the worst. Like, can you fucking imagine? That is ass.
No.
That is awful. Oh my God.
No, I can't imagine being like, say I was like in love with a man and then my mom came in and was like, hey, that's my guy. I'd be like, yo, what the fuck? Yeah. Same thing. I mean, but I guess it's, yeah. I would obviously, same thing would happen with the girl. It just like, I can't imagine, like, it hurts when like your friend does it, but like, imagine your fucking parent doing it. That is such another level of betrayal. That's just like fucking insane.
And the whole point is to birth an heir that's going to de-inherit you or disinherit you from the throne.
That. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's just fucked up. So yeah, Rhaenyra, shocked, pissed, leaves. Corlys, pissed, shocked, leaves. Otto, gassed up, he's sticking around.
What are we
the
drinking
little fucking
tonight?
look he gives Corlys? Yeah, the look he gives Corlys is like, he's such a fucking rat too, man. It's so goddamn good.
Viserys held his own against Corlys, though. He did not back down at like standing his ground about. He's like, I'm your king. Like, you're gonna listen to me and do what you're said. So that was good for him. Yeah. But let's get.
Leading into this scene, like Corlys left that meeting thinking like, why is now the time that he like acts like a king? Like, when it's to spurn me, like now he steps up and shows this level of strength, but only to like put me in my place. Like, he's fuming about that, which leads into him contacting Daemon for this meeting on Driftmark. And I like the way, again, they did this scene where it's just Corlys talking. And I mean, you fucking know it's going to be Daemon. I'm sure this is one of those things, Kathleen, where like, you're like, oh, I called that, where the camera pans and it's fucking Daemon sitting there. But doesn't make it any less hype. I mean, what a fucking fantastic way to end this episode with this scene.
Don't even blame Corlys. I would have probably done the same thing. I was feeling this team up since like the second or third scene of episode 1, right? When he's the only one defending Daemon when he's not in the room about being the heir. These two are just meant to be together. And as long, I just don't, it's going to be so crazy if these two are just like the powerhouses on the opposite side of Rhaenyra, because I really don't want that. I'm all in on them teaming up to fuck up the Crabfeeder, because we're getting parallel shots of Essos, or it's Essos, right? It's still in the Free Cities at this point. This whole time.
No, so it's already that'll be taking place. That'll be taking place. That stuff is taking place on the Steppe Zones. So the Steppe Zones are just a big chain of islands in between Westeros and the Narrows, in between Westeros and Essos.
Right. Okay. And are we allowed to talk just preview for next episode, or should we kind
of
do it?
That? Yeah, definitely.
I would just maybe we can finish this scene, I guess.
I'm just talking about anything about Crabfeeder. Yeah, like the Crabfeeder stuff in the preview for next episode seems like it's gearing up to be like that's going to be a main plot point. I won't say anything else about it. But it's going to be, I'm hoping, a great Corlys and Daemon team up episode, and then it's going to be Targaryen versus Targaryen. But I don't want that yet.
Kathleen.
Just on the end scene, not on the looking forward.
Correct.
Lit. I love it. These are I mean, Lord Corlys in the first episode, I mean, Otto like kind of puts him in his place. Was like 2 seconds ago you were voting for Daemon. Who the fuck do you actually want? So I like that he's not just like someone who was hating on Daemon in episode 1 and is now like, okay, well, fuck that guy. I'm gonna go to him. So I like that he was never actually against Daemon. So this team up seems like, all right, okay, Viserys, you do you. I'm gonna do me. I love it. Let's go. Good TV. Really good TV.
Yeah,
Holy,
fantastic
pay for it.
stuff. 2 comments will be one, just Daemon again being an absolute rider for Viserys at the same time and like insulting him 2 minutes prior, where Daemon's like, that's the one thing Viserys isn't good at, being king. And then Corlys is like, yeah, I mean, dude, I totally like, he's so weak. He doesn't fucking respond to any of these challenges.
Shut
and
your
Daemon's like,
fucking
well,
mouth.
yeah, immediately it's like, I could talk about my brother like that. You better watch yourself, buddy.
Yeah.
And then I just love the Corlys quote where he says, "We are the realm's second sons, Daemon. Our worth is not given, it must be made." And that is kind of the theme of their characters' ambition. He says, I mean, he even says the phrase, "We were made from the same cloth." And I also like that they said the second son stuff, because Daemon uses that as an insult against Otto in the first episode when he says, like, Otto Hightower is nothing more than a second son with nothing to inherit, and he'll do whatever it takes to get something. And then Corlys now is using that reasoning to Daemon to join his side and do things. So
I have
maybe
a
hypocritical,
question
but
that I'm not excited to ask because I feel like I should know this. But so the second sons, I totally like that is Khaleesi's fuckboy was in it, right?
yeah, Daemon Harris.
Daemon Harris, yes, also from Hill House. Woo.
Yeah, he was. I will say that he, in the books at least, was the leader of the Storm Crows. But the Second Sons are 100% a mercenary group in Essos.
Is that completely unrelated to this wordplay, or is this like the?
Oh, 100% related.
Okay, so it is.
is.
It's going to directly be the creation of that faction.
Oh, I was just saying more that like the Second Sons was created by like Westerosi knights who were like second, third, fourth sons. I
No.
won't comment on whether like this
Okay.
excursion to the Stepstones then creates the mercenary group.
That's what I was getting at. And is the Second Sons an existing group right now?
I'm gonna say no. I just don't know a ton about their histories. The only one I really know the history about is gonna be the Gold Cloaks. Or I'm sorry, not the Gold Cloaks. The Golden Company. Jesus.
Which is a huge book plot point that didn't make it into. There was like with the elephants.
No,
yeah, they did.
Yeah, they were in
were
season 8, but it was not done well.
They got crushed.
Yes, correct. Okay, yeah. I guess the one thing that I have is going to be a question, because obviously, like I've said multiple times, they are expanding on a lot of things from the books, because the book is just kind of one sentence or one paragraph on things. But Crabfeeder looks pretty fucking wild.
Amazing.
And it looks like he fucking has grayscale. I don't know if that's going to be a thing or not. I mean, I'm curious to see. I mean, a lot of people have just been commenting online about his appearance. He wears like that like mask that almost looks like it's like melted onto his face a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, is that his face? I can't tell.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to see what he actually looks like how he moves, how he fights, like if he speaks, like the way he commands people. I'm excited to see what level of detail we can get on this, just because we know we've been jumping around in time.
I don't really want him to have grayscale, because doesn't that feel like retconning a little bit? Because didn't it get confirmed that once you have grayscale long enough, it affects your brain and you basically become not a person? And that's why when we saw Tyrion and Jorah going through Old Valyria, like they didn't seem like conscious, like thinking entities. They were just consumed by the sickness. So unless it's like him in the process of becoming grayscaled, which is fine, you're going crazy. That would actually be sick. So I take it back if they go that route.
Yeah.
But,
you talked yourself into it.
But if he's like full grayscaled, that seems retconny.
I didn't catch that, Kyle. What his whole body seemed grayscale, or just like a piece?
Like his face, chin, neck into like his right shoulder, I believe.
It actually seems kind of lit. Like this guy has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing to lose. He's like, let's fucking go. I'm gonna just wreak havoc.
It could be something like Shireen, where he had it when he was younger. Somehow it got stopped. He has the scars, but he doesn't have like an active infection, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. Yeah, even though they do say in the books, the wildlings are like, look at Shireen and are like, I'm not fucking. They don't want to eat with her. They don't want to be near her because they're like that shit never actually goes away.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. I mean, yeah, they have more than enough latitude to expand on Crabfeeder, and I think it's gonna be fucking sick, man. The preview for episode 3.
Looks
I guess if you
amazing.
don't want to hear anything about the preview, then don't
Skip
listen
2
to this.
minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to stop the episode, thanks for listening. But the fucking preview looks sick. Like there was like we're talking like full out battle in the step zones
Yep.
with Daemon and Corlys like leading a host against Crabfeeder.
I like that Daemon is like a legit good warrior. It's kind of like Jamie, right? Jamie was a doucher, but like he could fuck with when he had 2 hands, he could kill anybody, right? I like that they're portraying Daemon as someone who's like, well, I'm gonna go out and go do things.
Yeah, yeah.
See ya. Like I'm gonna go be
Yeah.
on the front lines of this battle, which is cool and admirable back in the day. Well,
And we're definitely
yeah.
if this is gonna go the route of like Blackwater Rush, like we're gonna get a full battle. Like we're totally just gonna get a sick dragon scene of Daemon's dragon just taking shit out, and it's just gonna be dope. I feel like we're owed a little bit more Daemon time after they named this episode after him, and he was only in like 3 scenes. So
Yeah.
this could be sweet, and it's
It's
gonna
really
be a year in the future, right?
it seemed like 2 because
years?
9 he had to get her pregnant and the baby was like a 1-year-old or more in that
That's
scene.
That's good math right there, Kathleen. That's solid
Yeah,
math.
I would say 2 years probably.
Okay.
I don't know why I had 2 years in my head. Do they say that? No, they couldn't
They
have
said
2 years
some
later.
sort of timeline, but I forget because I just kind of
Yeah.
skimmed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a quick watch for me too. But we do know now that King Viserys and Allison have had a child. Allison, they don't show who she's talking to, but she's obviously talking to Ranier, I guess, or about Ranier, where she's like, it doesn't have to be any different or whatever. And it's like, it's never not gonna be different. Like
Yeah.
you just had the heir now who is gonna replace me, and you're fucking my dad.
Yeah.
There's no fucking days in the Godswood reading fucking history books that's ever gonna fucking get us back to
Right.
that point. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I guess a good question to leave us on here, maybe I'll put it on the board kind of thing, is do we think Crabfeeder makes it out of next episode, or is this going to be a 3-episode arc for him to kind of connect Corlys and Daemon and make that alliance a thing, and then we move on to Westeros again? Do you guys think Crabfeeder dies or lives?
I think I'm going to go on a limb and say it's done, only because the trajectory of these 3 episodes have been we're here 6 months later, guesstimate 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
I can't foresee, like, from this point right now, Crabfeeder's an issue. I don't know if they're showing Daemon and Corlys fighting the Crabfeeders in 6 months, in 1 year. Like, how do they flow that episode? Is Rhaenyra and Viserys and Allison and the baby kind of even further along than when this Crabfeeder fight is happening? Who's to say? But
yeah,
my guess is that beat. I think he's done. But although I don't know, we're gonna have to see how they portray him. He seems really cool.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
the
I think
wildling for the show.
my take is that if I had to pick, I'm gonna say that he'll be dead next episode. But I don't think it'll be insane if they make it like pretty much like a 2.5 episode, like counting this episode as a half episode, and then 2 more episodes, like a small mini arc
Okay.
into then having things flow. But you're right, Kathleen. We have no idea how many years they're gonna jump between episodes and stuff. So it's kind of hard to guess.
Okay. Yeah. Uninteresting answer, because I'm going to say the same thing. I think he's done. It's just like
I'll be
epic
happily
3
surprised.
episodes. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll like it a lot if they do stretch it out into 2 episodes, because it'll just be, I mean, like that's the only actual war that's going on. I mean, they've mentioned it in both episodes that no one here knows anything about actually fighting. So if we can try to milk 2 episodes of fighting out of Crabfeeder, I'll tip my cap to him.
Yeah. All right, let's get our final thoughts in here, then we can wrap this one up. And I could start. It was just awesome. We're back into the Game of Thrones swing. I think like the train has left the building. Let's just fucking keep on going. The Targaryens are doing it, and I'm starting to get scared how much I like Rhaenyra because of the actor switch. She is quickly shooting up my like rankings of all-time Game of Thrones characters. She's not like at Arya Stark level because she's #1 baby girl of all time. But she's getting there, man. She's approaching like Danny level. She's still under her too, and like she's under some of the greats. But she's for 2 episodes, pound for pound, might have shot up the highest for any character, and that's a lot of pressure to transition it into a completely new actress. And I'm hoping that it doesn't lose some of the charm, the badassery, and as long as that stuff's all fine, like I feel like Rhaenyra can go down as one of the greats, and I'm excited to keep watching her. And Damon's just, he's the best.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, kind of reiterate what we were saying last episode. Having House of the Dragon in its first season, right? Besides having all the lore, all the books, all the fans from Game of Thrones, whatever, they also have the budget for a season 1, which is so lit. Like, if you were to compare season 1 of Game of Thrones versus now, I mean, you can't, because Game of Thrones was just starting, blah, blah, blah. This is so cool, so lit. I'm just so happy to be here every Sunday. I think like Friday, I was at a bachelorette this weekend, and it was Friday. I was driving and I was like, oh, Sunday is Game of Thrones. Like, normally, I mean, you guys were away for the weekend. I was away this weekend. Normally you're like, Sundays, like, I'm going to just go die. It's like, no, let's go. We're like, we have something to look forward to again. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the rest of the season, and especially recording this on Mondays every week too. It's like now I get to watch it on Sunday, rewatch on Monday, record on Monday night. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great little thing.
I want to add, just that we Kyle and I and a bunch of our friends that we've been doing it for years, we do like an annual just trip, usually to the beach or the mountains or something like that. 20 plus people. And we built the whole weekend around like Sunday night. We're fucking all sitting down and doing this. And the last night of our trip, we had a couple of stragglers like pull off because it was a longer weekend. We extended it. And so I think there was, how many of us at the last night, Kyle? Like 10?
No, it was a 12-person watch
12
party.
12-person house. Every single person was already caught up. Like, we're all geared up, and we didn't like coordinate this at all with anybody else. We're just like, we're watching this. You guys can feel free. Everyone's caught up. We literally sat down and watched episode 1 right before it, just to like rehash it right into episode 2. It's just magical. Shit doesn't happen like this anymore. Streaming is taking over the world, so it doesn't. Live TV isn't like this, and the fact that Game of Thrones can even capture a little bit of this. And I just saw a tweet from Culture Crave today that I think they said that there was even increase in viewership from episode 2 to 1. Like, more people watched 2 live than 1, which is just crazy. And it was like a notable, I think it was like a 3% increase or something
3%,
like that.
Yep,
which is just huge off of a 20 million opening pilot viewership. Like, that's just incredible. It doesn't seem like Game of Thrones is slowing down, and it's just gonna, as long as they stick the landing, which is always their problem, I think this could be it could get us back to the Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I love that.
I'm sorry, I was just on the clock in a fantasy football draft.
I just
Game
watched that happen. That face. I was like, is he okay? Did he just get a crazy text?
Nah, we're good. No worries. I just really think that we're 2 for 2, like I said in the beginning of the episode. And it's just like you guys said, it feels so fucking good to be every Sunday meeting up with people to watch a TV show. Luke, the point about streaming is dead on. I am definitely team weekly releases. Although I do kind of like Amazon Prime's of give us 2 to 3 and then weekly after that.
Weekly, yeah.
Yeah, but they're just doing such a good fucking job of bringing this book to life. It's so obvious in the first 2 episodes that they're huge fans of the series and that they really care about getting everything right. And if they don't get something right from the book, they're doing it in a way that makes sense and is actually even sometimes better. So George R. R. Martin had said like months ago that he had seen the first 9 episodes, and he said that they were so like went above and beyond his expectations. Like, they were so good. And now to like actually be watching them and seeing it in person just feels great. And I could not agree with him.
They gave him 9 and not 10.
I think so, yeah.
That's fucking wild. Like, George,
I'm pretty sure
you're gonna have to tune in to find out.
Yeah, bro, it ain't free. It ain't free admission for the finale, bro. You got to earn your stripes like the rest of us.
Insane.
Okay, so that will wrap our coverage.
Wait. Final thought. What did you like better, 1 or 2?
1.
Wow, I like 2.
1 just like, dude, 1 was like, we're fucking back. It felt so good to be watching again. And 2 was sick, but it was like
2 had my
One
favorite
just-
scene, and 1 had my
Oh
least
my
favorite
God.
scene. That's pretty much what it is because I didn't like the
Yeah,
prophecy.
sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's a
Kathleen,
good
what'd
way
you
to
pick?
I don't have a vote.
No.
Come on.
I would
Doesn't
say
mean anything.
one just to relive like
Yeah.
you can't get that back, but I
Yeah.
will say
Cut, you're not on
two
next
made
episode.
me it felt like we never left with 2, but
Fair. I like how you treated that like it was fucking Viserys' marriage decision. Like, I can't pick. I can't pick 1 or 2. It's just their
I'm like,
fucking
well, wait, let me go
episode.
ask Alex.
Well, you just picked Lena right there with 1. You just picked Lena, so feel good about that.
She dies
Yeesh.
off the screen.
Yeesh.
She did it for duty, okay, not love. She has a
I lo-
duty to this
I-
podcast.
I love the realm.
You know what? So do I. Okay. So that wraps episode 2 of House of the Dragon coverage, The Rogue Prince. Obviously, we will be back for episode 3. We'll be back for every fucking episode of this TV show. We will be covering it. It'll probably be the 3 of us. I know we mentioned in the first episode that other people might dive in and out. We will see what happens with that. But I mean, my spot is solidified, so I don't really care otherwise. And we hope you listeners are solidified. You're going to be here with us for the rest of the season. If you want to follow our other things, obviously, please subscribe to us on either YouTube or your favorite podcast app that you might be currently listening to this on. All of our social media accounts, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, are at Bingetown TV. We have our own website, spoiler alert, bingetowntv.com. patreon.com/bingetowntv. And I think that's all the things that Jimmy requires us to say at the end of the episode. So if you guys don't have anything else, that's all I got. And I hope you guys have a good night.
Oh.
Love y'all.
Love you too.